Okay, people. So I would say you would recognize this man, but
So that's
yeah,
4 of you.
but my boy Tupaq, he's been down with the podcast before we did video,
Okay.
right? So you heard the voice a good few times, but you didn't see the face. So we
Good.
are joined today by the great Tupaq Felber, man. Yo, how you
Wow.
doing, my friend?
That's an introduction, man. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's good to see you. It's good to see that the postcard's getting, it's going places and growing.
Yeah, man. Like, boy, it was a while back that we were talking tides and all the other things, man. But
Fuck yeah,
hey,
man. Like, we were just talking about how, the length of getting anything made in the indie realm, and that was 8 years ago.
mm,
So yeah,
it's
that's when we
insane.
first hooked up, was 8 years ago, and I think
Yeah.
we did a couple after that. And yeah, life moves on, man.
Mm, it
Okay,
really.
so although you look great, you haven't changed a fucking bit.
Oh, don't know, man. My body feels older.
Tell me about that. Tell me.
Oh man, like I feel like you injure yourself back in the day, and it's like you wake up and you're better. Like I broke my ankle last year, and it's still a mess, and it's
Man, you go
just
to bed well and you wake up
oh,
with a fucking backache now, don't
yeah,
you? It's not like you go to bed in pain and you wake up better. You wake up with a pain you didn't have yesterday.
exactly. That's what it is now,
Yeah.
man. Oh dear, but we're here to talk the Oscars.
Hell yeah.
The Oscars, which, every year we do this dance, and it's always a little bit baffling. And I feel this year, even more so, even more so.
Yeah, I
I,
mean, we're not here really to talk about how excited we are about the entire thing. It's almost, how it might as well not have happened.
yeah, really so. It's like,
Doesn't feel like it has any cultural resonance at all. Like it's not speaking to, it's speaking to some metric of viewership and the members of what the members of the academy feel has value. But that
mm,
just with every year, it feels more and more separate from cinema, or let alone, the state of the world.
it
They
really,
made their efforts, though, didn't they? They made their efforts.
mm,
As there's been, what was the year that it was the Oscars So White thing, wasn't it?
yeah,
And then
yeah,
after the year after that, they really made an effort to show how, for want of a better word, woke, although that's probably the correct word, which I have issues with, but I think that's exactly what they were trying to prove.
yeah.
And
Which made it worse, though. I feel that
because
made
they're
it
not.
worse.
Well, if you can try as hard as you want to be something you're not, but it's not, it's see-through as fuck.
Well, that was the problem, because you're then giving Oscars to Denzel and Halle. And it's just like, oh, that's a coincidence, isn't it? And it's,
Yeah.
look, they're great actors, but I feel they both definitely had better films. So giving them Oscars for those films was just insanity.
But that's always the case, isn't it? Like in a lot of cases, it's not a. I mean, I don't even know if it's really meant to be a consideration of the work that you did on a certain film. I
Mm,
think Oscars has become just, in many cases, they're just looking for an excuse to give someone the recognition that they failed to do when it was actually deserved.
yes. Oh, for sure. Because remember the year True Grit came out,
Okay,
and
no, but I remember it happening. I couldn't tell you what
yeah,
year.
I was hoping you might go, yeah, that was because I can't remember the year
No,
itself.
no, no, no. Well,
But
we've got Google for that, haven't we?
yeah, but Halle Steinfeld, I think
Yes.
that's the little girl,
Mm.
was outstanding.
Did
But
she
I
win?
just remember the conversation was she won't get the Oscar because she's too young. Like that's her first role, so they're not going to give her, and they didn't give her the Oscar. But that's it. But that made the Oscar. It really showed what it was, because it's
Yeah.
just like, if you're saying someone that was outstanding hasn't got a look in because they're too young and they haven't done enough, then what is that award then?
Yeah, no,
Because that
exactly.
award isn't for,
Excellent.
the film. It isn't best actor.
No,
It's
in
the
that
actor
role.
that's done enough stuff.
Yes, that a small group of people feel is deserved of
Mm,
this accolade, and once a year they get the opportunity to, shower their praise upon whoever they feel has, and it's always like they're always catching up with themselves.
yeah.
Like, oh shit, we forgot to give it to so and so. Fuck, did he not have one? Let's give her one. She didn't have one already. It's not like they're giving it to surprising people. And
No.
they tried to give it to fucking the whole Moonlight La La Land thing, although that was the other way around, wasn't it?
Oh,
It
yeah,
was
that was
incredible.
so crazy
Yeah,
when that happened.
yeah. Well, did we have any of those this year? Like Demi Moore didn't get Best Actress,
No.
even though Mickey Madison, I don't feel, deserved it. And talk about someone who hasn't been around for very long. I mean, she's been in 2 or 3 big movies, hasn't she? She's hardly been around for ages.
Yeah, no, she hasn't done a lot of stuff.
Has she done a leading, like, I don't imagine. I mean, she was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
Yeah.
but she was like a seriously minor part in that.
Yeah, I
Great scene to,
don't think
give her
she's had a
props.
leading film role. I
No.
think she had a leading TV role, but
Oh, is it
not a film
one of
role.
the Euphoria people?
No. No, she's not Euphoria. I forget what the TV show is that she
I
was
am
on.
benefiting from the fact that we're doing this on Zoom by doing.
Yeah, I think I've
She's not
dropped.
Minky Madison. She is Anara, so I can do it. So
Here we go.
she's in the Scream.
Oh,
Oh,
yes,
she's in
yes,
Better Things. Was she the daughter in Better Things?
yeah.
She's the daughter.
So she's done a few bits and bobs, but yeah, nothing huge.
Can't. I really enjoyed the first couple of seasons of Better Things. But she's not one of the 2 daughters. She's in it, but she's not one of the 2 daughters. But like, you're not allowed to say this, but I think as soon as Louis C.K. left that show, it got shit.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, okay, Anora. Did you see Anora?
I did. I saw Anora last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I I don't think any of the Oscar films really that, because let's just pull up the best films, right? You had The Brutalist, you had Anora, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Emily Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, Wicked, and June 2. I'll tell you, my favorite out of all of those was June 2.
Yeah, agreed. I mean,
That
like,
that
going back
that's
to what
my
I was saying earlier, like, that entire list, I think there's only 2 films on that list that actually did what they set out to do. One of them was Wicked, and the other one was June 2.
yeah.
Wicked isn't really my thing, but June 2 is very much my thing. But I actually didn't think it was as good as June 1, but it's still fucking good. Like you can't fault
Yes.
it. You might
No,
not like
for
that kind of thing, but it
for
is
sure.
masterful filmmaking.
Oh,
And
Villeneuve
tells a
is
great story
ancient.
in a great way.
Yeah.
And I think the first one is slightly more cohesive as a story, although I think the second one's kind of got better bits. It's got better scenes in it.
I think
Like
the first
visually more
one
so.
is political, right? It's that backroom intrigue,
Mm,
it's overthrow, it's all of that. It's the kind of the beginnings of the what the benefit Benny Gesserit seeded to allow Paul and Jessica to succeed with the Freeman,
mm.
and then in June 2, or June Part 2 even, you get the big fight scenes, you
Yeah, it's
get
a war
the
movie.
you get the action. So it is like I thought they made some changes. Like I did like the fact in it that you had more dissent with the Fremen. Like, wait, why are we listening to this outside and all of that kind of stuff?
Mm.
And you had the young guy, the young Fremen and the older Fremen. I like the fact that you had that, and also the fact that it was so vast, right? The cabins, the sietches were
Oh,
huge.
that scene is so beautiful. Like I love
Oh man,
that's the peak of that film for me. I mean, that scene, the scene where they're taking out the mine, the spice miner,
yeah,
and the scene obviously in the kind of the infrared planet. Yeah, it's just got amazing sequences that movie.
mm, yeah.
But
The use
so
of
I agree
color,
with you. I
the
think like
soundtrack, just all of those things were just
yeah, and the
phenomenal.
performances, like as I say, I don't think you can fault it. It's also a little bit long, but I'd rather have a bit too much of Dune than a little bit too much of Oz.
Yeah.
So but that's me. Like I say, my daughter doesn't seem to feel that way, and it was made for her more than it was made for me, and she's seen it 6 times, which is about the amount
Yes.
of times that I've seen Dune too. So there we go.
Well, because I watched Wicked, and it wasn't for me, right?
Yeah,
I thought it was overlong. When I got to the end of it,
you
I'm
like
like,
musicals?
you could. I mean, music. I'm a weird one with musicals. Like
Yeah,
it's like rom-coms, right? I could, in a broad stroke, I would say they're not for me, but there are some rom-coms that I find incredible. I love About Time. I think About Time is fantastic. The new one with Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh. And no, I was going to say it ends with us. That was dreadful. No,
that was dreadful.
We Live in Time. I think
Yes,
that's
I've not
the
seen
name.
that.
Oh, I love that. It's so good.
Is
Like,
it?
oh, it's so good.
Right.
It is, oh man, makes your eyes wet. You know
Okay.
what I mean? Like I love those. And then Richard Linklater's, before trilogy is
Yeah, I like
a
that as well.
masterpiece.
Yeah.
Is a masterpiece.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
He's
there's those kind of films that I really like. I really like Garden State, Juno,
okay,
you
so
know.
you do quite like romantic comedies. What are you
Well,
talking about? Which ones don't you like?
well, the list is huge.
The shit ones.
Bridget Jones 2, 3, 4.
The shit ones.
I hate all of those. Like
But the good ones
Chalet.
one,
One
I
was
noticed
not
wasn't on the
one
list.
isn't bad.
No, it's not bad.
It's enjoyable,
Yeah.
right? I think Love Actually, I don't like it as a whole, but some of the stories I thought were really good,
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
you
But
know?
that film, when it's on, you'll put it you'll switch it on in a moment where it's fucking what that woman and the Brazilian guy story, and you'll be like, "Oh no, this bit's shit." But then the next bit will be the Alan Rickman one, which is quite
Oh,
good. All
oh,
the
I felt so bad for Emma Thompson. I was just
yeah,
like, "Oh, you bastard."
yeah. That film could have just done with a couple of those stories being taken out, and then it would actually be kind of a classic. But it's
Yes,
like I said, it's patches now.
because I hated the Hugh Grant Girl from EastEnders story.
Oh yes.
I hated that one. The Keira Knightley one
Oh, that was cute.
is cute, but dude's an asshole.
Yes.
Like Lynn Collin is like his best friend.
Um,
videoed his wedding and creeping on his girl. Now, he didn't do anything, but he shows up to be like, I just want you to know I love you. And it's like,
I know.
yo, you're my boy. What are you doing?
Is that romantic, or is that just really fucking backstabby?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like, you understand we've got a blood feud now. You know, it's on site. If I see you on road, that's what that is. So
Yeah,
yeah,
there's a lot of iffy shit that goes on in that film, actually. A lot of iffy shit.
I did actually like the I forget it's the girl from Gavin and Stacey, the porn set one.
Oh yes.
I thought
Yes.
that was kind of
Absolutely.
sweet.
Yeah,
I
it was
thought that little story was kind of sweet, but yeah,
yeah.
I hated the Liam Neeson one.
Yeah,
Just
with the
because the
boy.
kid running through, it always makes you laugh when you have someone and they run through the airport. I'm like, they never would let you do that. You're getting tased the minute you jump a gate. What are we saying? You know what I mean? It's like, what? And I so wanted that kid to get tased. Oh man, I hated that one.
Who's that kid? That kid is now. He's not. No, Nicholas Holt is about.
Nicolette Holt was about a boy, yeah.
And that one gone? That one's gone on. The boy from Love Actually has gone on to do something, but I can't think what.
Yeah, I can't think of what his name is, but he's definitely moved on up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good career move to be a child in a Hugh Grant movie.
Yes.
A boy child actor, because the chances are you're going places.
Yeah. So yeah, there's the rom-coms which I
We're talking romantic comedy. Have we talked about Honora? We were talking about Honora.
Oh yes, yeah, we're talking about Honora. Like, I thought there were good aspects of the film, but I didn't, like all the others, I didn't watch it and go, man, this could be best fucking film.
No
And there's
way.
been some years when I've watched films and thought, I mean, I can't see how that doesn't win everything, you know.
Dude,
But
yes, I mean, I've seen all Sean Baker's movies, and that is without a doubt the worst one.
I prefer Tangerine for sure.
Oh, they're all better.
Yeah.
I think the Florida Project did win a few things, didn't it?
Off Oscars, yeah, I think it won Golden
It was
Globe.
really good, but like this was, I think it's like the first half of it I really liked, like the bit where this is. I watched it with my wife, and she was like, "Is this a remake of Pretty Woman?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it pretty much is a remake of Pretty Woman from what I've read."
But
and I have no problem with that.
realistic.
Talking about romantic comedies, I have no problem. Pretty Woman is part of my upbringing. It's in my DNA. So I've no problem with that.
Yeah.
But then when it became like a mafia thing at the end where it's just hoods looking for someone for the next hour. Dude. A montage. That's what a montage is for.
Yes.
Find him in 2.5 minute pop song, and then skip to the end, and then what you've got is 90-minute film that works.
Well, I think,
and you got best editing.
Yeah, I mean, it worked. That whole looking for him works in the 80s, early 90s, right? It doesn't work now with cell phones.
Well, yeah.
It doesn't work with Find My Friend, right? Yeah. Find My Phone. It doesn't work with GPS. It doesn't work with cameras all over the shop. Yeah. That kind of thing. It's, like you find now you'll have like I've watched a few films and someone's got their phone wet and they're like, oh, my phone doesn't work. And it's just like, what are you talking about? You can take the phone in the sea now. Shut up. You can't use that bullshit any longer. So it's just like that whole sequence would have worked back in the day, but now doesn't really work. Doesn't really work.
No. But it wasn't even, it wasn't a sequence. That was like half the film.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The half I didn't like. the half without the Russian kid in it, who I thought was the best thing about that film. Like, if anyone should have been nominated, it was him. He was hilarious. But yeah,
He
I mean,
didn't
he
get
was
any
all right.
nom, which
He was
is
fun.
interesting.
Uh,
He didn't get a nom, which is
no, I don't think he
interesting.
had any noms, that guy.
Ah,
But I don't think he's. Yeah, who are they gonna kick off the plate for him?
yeah,
Yeah.
that is the
Yeah.
question.
And I guess it's kind of, I mean, if that is because the other thing is like they're power. It's a powerful group of people because were they to give him an on, they're kind of making, that's a big door to open for you. Like suddenly he's got a career, which he
Yeah.
can then go and fuck up, but he's got a career. Like he's got a good shot at it
Oh,
if
for
he gets
sure.
a nomination. So they can make or break you. And who the fuck
Mm.
knows what happened?
I mean, to be honest, when you look at best actors, I would have taken Sebastian Stan out.
I don't know, man. Like the whole the bar is so low. Like
I
he
just
was
didn't
fine in
rate
that
The
film, like, and he
Apprentice.
was quite funny in that film. I thought
He's
I mean, I didn't love it, but it
Mm.
was I found it entertaining and educational, and I thought Mark Strong was brilliant.
Oh, he was really fucking good. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
his
was
name's
very
Mark
good.
Strong, right? He's not the other guy. Mark Strong
No,
is
Jeremy Strong. Jeremy Strong.
Jeremy Strong. Thank you.
Yes, that's it.
And I mean, if anyone should have got the nomination, it should have been him, really, because they were
Mm.
co-stars in that. But they don't really do co-stars in Hollywood anymore, in the Oscars anyway,
No.
because like Ariana Grande was in for supporting and Cynthia Erivo was for lead, whereas they're co-leads, surely.
Yeah. Yeah, they're in it
Why are
for
they in different categories?
roughly the same amount of time.
Roughly. I mean, I guess in the second one will be probably more about her, but so, that maybe is the rationale. But we come back to like, what are we awarding? Are we awarding the excellence of your work in this particular film? Or are we just trying to make 3 hours of entertaining television that will create headlines? What are you actually trying to do with this? And I think it's become unclear,
Yeah, it
which
is.
makes the whole thing kind of irrelevant. If they're giving away prizes and no one really understands what it's a prize for.
Yeah. I think the one thing that
Hmm.
which we don't usually get, right? So best films are Nora, best director Sean Baker, and then best actress is Mikey Madsen, which finally actually makes sense. Because my whole thing about the Oscars and an award ceremony, it doesn't make any sense. Because if you've got the best film, then the best director should come from that film. Because it's only the best film because of the director, the actors, the cinematography, the edit. So it kind of doesn't make sense when it's all fragmented. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. I think that, I mean, but like let's take cinematography for instance. Like that, you can imagine a film that doesn't require particularly stunning cinematography, but just works wonderfully, even though it's shot very simply. And then there's
That is
another
true.
film that maybe isn't quite as successful in terms of storytelling, but just looks fantastic. So I can see like there are ways that these
Definitely
things can
some.
coordinate themselves, and acting as well. Like despite the importance of a good actor. Like I see wonderful films where the general level of the acting isn't kind of at that world-class stage, but the directing is so good that it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like the
There's
Florida
definitely that
Project
for
being a
sure.
good example of that, seeing as like none of those people were professional actors. And whilst it got a beautiful vibe out of all of them and it felt totally naturalistic and brilliant, it might not be appropriate to give, although I think maybe that little girl did get a nomination. I can't remember. But, that's totally down to the director, as opposed to the craft of the people doing it, because they don't have any craft.
Yes.
So
there's definitely those scenarios
yeah,
where there are certain categories that you could go, okay, they don't have to be on point for something to be best film.
yes,
But then you have the ones where you're just like, well, it can't be best film if the director's shit.
totally, totally.
Or the screenplay.
No, totally. Yeah, but and yet we come back down to the politic of it. Like, what is it that we're doing with this
Mm.
award ceremony, and what is it kind of trying to uphold? Some kind of power system, which it obviously is succeeding to an extent, but yeah, I mean, it's a lot of backpatting, and in a moment where I kind of feel like cinema as a whole is kind of in a state of crisis. So the importance conversations are not being had. Like, these things go from being part of some great tradition to being part of the problem, I think.
Mm. Like some of the conversations on ITV's coverage of the Oscars was bizarre, and it was a reason I had to turn it off.
Right.
I had to duck out because I'm like, because I knew we were having the conversation. I was like, I probably should watch it. And I was talking to my girl, and she's just like, "Well, what are you doing?" I was like, "I'm gonna watch the Oscars. I'm speaking to two. So yeah, I'm gonna, gotta be professional. I'm gonna watch the whole ceremony." And then I taped it, and then I put it on. I'm just like, I can't watch this. It is because you had Jonathan Ross, who is irritating. Like the
Okay.
one person who I was just like, oh my god, like this Mariana Foxcrop.
Oh,
Foss,
really? Fostra,
yeah,
yeah.
she was there,
So
and I
who?
was
It
like,
was the two of them, was it?
no. It was Mariana Fostrop. It was Jonathan Ross. It was Jason Isaacs.
Oh, okay.
And you also had what's her name? It was Ellie Osley Wood.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I have no clue who she is. When I looked her up, and it's supposedly she's like does a lot of presenting work and all of this. But what I thought was there's a couple of interesting points that were made, right? And one, because she was saying, and I think Jonathan Ross had said it as well, that Kieran Culkin got an Oscar for basically being himself.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, hey, he didn't really act. He was just himself. And I'm kind of, and Jason Isaacs is just like, even if that is him, he's still acting. He still has to act. He still has to interact. And he said to this Ellie Osley guy, he's like, if you were an actor, you would and she's like, I am an actor. She's
Yeah.
not an actor. She's not an actor. She's a presenter.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So I just thought that was crazy to be like, I am an actor. And it's just like, I mean, maybe she's done some,
Oh yeah, but he
funny.
has done some acting. That does not make you an actor. I've done some acting. I'm not an actor.
Exactly. Like I've done a good few open mics, but I'm not walking around saying I'm a comedian.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it was just like the statement. And so to try and be like Kieran Culkin shouldn't have got best, supporting actor. I was an odd one for me.
Yeah. And just who else was on that list?
We have Yuri Borsarov, the guy who Honora jumps on in the car in
Oh
Honora.
yeah, the gangster guy.
Yeah, the bald one. It's him. Edward. Now, Edward Norton he was fantastic in A Complete Unknown.
Mm.
He was really frigging good. You have Guy Pearce for The Brutalist and Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice.
Oh, okay, he was in there.
So I did think, Jeremy Strong was very good for sure, and Edward Norton. I did think Yuri was good, but I think
No,
against
I just
all
thought that was
those
such a
other people.
random choice.
Well, yes, against
I
all
mean,
of those other
it's
people,
not
I
like he was
wouldn't
standout.
do it.
He was perfectly good, but it's not like he stood out to me as really kind of owning the film in any way, or
No.
like popping out of the screen. He was no better than, well, okay, I guess he was no better than she was, and she won Best Actress. So there you go.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and it's not, as I said, it's not saying he wasn't decent. He was decent. He worked well in that role, but I feel I've seen stronger performances. And I did think A Real Pain was, I did like that film, and I thought Kieran was like the linchpin in that film.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. If anything, yeah, he was kind of the star of that film.
Yeah.
But and also like another award. I don't know, man. Like
Yeah.
the film was nice, but 20 years ago, like at the height of the Sundance revolution or whatever you want to call that, there were 3 or 4 of those films a year,
Oh,
like
for
that
sure.
one.
Yeah.
They were just as good as that one, and they never even got close to the Oscars.
Mm,
That's what South by Southwest was invented for, to get, and Sundance, to give them some kind of platform. And
yeah.
that film, okay, it's got A-list stars. Are they A-list? I guess they're A-list in a kind of telly way,
Mm,
but they're not. Yeah, I guess maybe one of the problems is that we're kind of we still kind of seeing the Oscars, if we're talking about them as the absolute height of accolade, the absolute, the pinnacle of what one can achieve within this art form, then it makes no sense.
no.
Whereas if it's a bunch of old white guys giving awards to people that they like and are friends with, then yeah, okay, it kind of makes sense.
Well, yes. I think that is the thing with the Oscars, because yes, it is the biggest film award,
Yes, it's the
but
biggest party,
it
but it's
doesn't.
kind of lame. It's a
Yeah.
kind of lame party where, you've seen everyone who's there before. They're not shaping culture. They're not, they're
No.
not, yeah, they might, I'm sure Anora will get seen a lot more now that it's won that. Oh no, yeah, I mean, literally, I'm going to see Mickey 17 on Saturday, and
Mm.
they've re-released Anora.
Yeah, that's how I
So it's
saw
gonna
it.
make loads of money in a
It
way
got
that it didn't
re-released.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be re-released, and a lot of those films will be re-released. They'll be showing them. It's probably not even an official release. It's just Cineworld have realized that they can cash in on this, so let's do it. And so everyone's happy. But I don't think the world's a better place for having more people having seen Anora,
No.
frankly.
No. I I I think when you look at the conversation, there's the other interesting conversation on ITV's Oscar thing was around the substance. And you had Jonathan Ross and this Ellie Osley Wood girl gushing,
Really?
about and
Don't get it.
Mariana Foxtrop was where I stood, but she was just like,
Where do you stand?
I'm like, it makes no sense. I mean, like, the film doesn't make any sense. Because firstly, you've got Demi Moore. Demi Moore does not look bad, but she's on this thing like this aging actress who no one wants to mess with. I'm like, it's like when Renée Zellweger did Bridget Jones, and she's like, I'm too fat, and it's just like, shut up! What are you talking about? You know what I mean? It's just like, it doesn't necessarily make any sense. And then you have all of this weird nudity in it, right? It's like the body is left on the floor. And it was what something like Mariella said, and it's something that I thought as well when watching it. They're meant to be the same person, but they're not benefiting, which doesn't really make any sense. They're not having the same experience. And if that's your person, you're not leaving them just on the floor, like, you know, it got really weird. It didn't, it kind of, it felt
I think
like it
it's
was
consciously
a great
weird, though.
idea that was a short film,
Yes.
and they didn't have enough to make this long feature.
Dude, this is okay. Where I stand on this is that it's bullshit, and that the first 20 minutes of that movie, I was like, okay, yeah, we're in. This is gonna be fucking awesome. It looks amazing. You know, it's fucking weird in a cool way. It's disgusting in a way that I kind of like. And then it just went on.
Yeah.
And I just like, by the end of it, I was so disappointed that all the credit it had gained with me in the first 20 minutes, like anyone that was stupid enough to make the rest of that film the way that they did had must have just fluked out to make the beginning of that film. And I lastly heard an interview with the filmmaker, and she said that, and this is it for me, is she's like, oh yeah, I had like 4 really good endings, and I couldn't decide which one to put in, like, because they were all so great. So I decided to put them all in, which is what happened. You know, that film ends like 5 times, and the first time there's a moment when the film ends, you think it's about to end. You're like, okay, cool. That's a cool ending, and then it starts again, and then it does again, and then by the third time it does it, you're so sick of it, and you're so disappointed at, you know, all the potential that it's just pissed away, and the goodwill it built up in you, because like arguably even the first bit shouldn't really work, but it kind of does.
Yes.
And that is, I mean, that is well, you know, it's another conversation, but this would have been the position of the studios to understand that, you know, when there were people who actually believed and loved film who were working within these organizations, they would have stepped in and helped, and could have actually made something meaningful out of that. But yeah, by the end of it, I just thought, by the end of it, I've seen a behind the scenes of that bit where the monster's on the stage and like blood's going everywhere, and it's just so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just and self-indulgent, and no. It starts off really well, and it ends up so badly that it actually in the final assessment, it just I don't think it really has any value. And I
No.
think with Demi Moore, yeah, she won the prize, and it's very sweet that she won the prize, and you know, she probably should have won something earlier, but not for this.
No.
It was
Well,
very brave of her to look ugly, and you know, for a beautiful woman who's obviously, you know, whose currency in the world is looking fantastic, to let herself do that. But is that what the prize is for?
well, yes, but
People,
the problem with that is she still looks good.
yes.
Like it doesn't work, but she still looks good.
Well,
Now I'm gonna
you
feel
got ugly,
bad.
and then you got film ugly. There are people who make careers out of being film ugly who are actually incredibly good looking.
Yeah, I'm gonna feel bad for saying this, right? But it would have worked more if you had Kathy Bates in the Demi Moore role. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but she wouldn't have been like, she wouldn't have been a failing fitness instructor. She would have been a failed business fitness instructor.
But you need someone who isn't conventionally attractive
Mm.
for it to work. So you could say, I mean, it's kind of like when you see pictures of I can't, there's been some people and you'd be like, oh man, I mean, well, Betty White, right? When you see Betty White when she was younger, like she was,
The Golden Girls.
yeah,
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah,
she was a lot different.
well, no,
Um,
she was like a Hollywood starlet. She was a
yeah,
beauty, yeah. All
that's what I
those
mean. So,
women
so it's
were.
just like when if it was like that, you know what I mean? Then you can go yes, right? So it's an actress who had that time at the very start of the career. She was young, she was fit, and fame and everything. She partied too hard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Then that works, but it has to be that drastic difference between her and Quigley. You know what I mean? And Demi and Quigley are too much alike, really, for it to mean anything.
yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Just as at a tangent, speaking about Betty White and the Golden Girls, I heard this the other day. Do you know how old the Golden Girls are meant to be in the Golden Girls?
I
What
think
would
they're
your
meant to
guess
be in their
be?
80s, but they weren't, were they?
No, they're not meant to be in their 80s. They're meant to be in their early 50s.
What?
Yeah. In whenever the Golden Girls came out, mid 80s, that's what people in their early 50s were meant to look like.
Oh, that's worrying.
Yeah.
That's worrying.
So I guess, yeah,
Oh my God.
perceptions change, my friend. What people are meant, what constitutes old and beautiful and young and all of this, perceptions change. If Betty White was meant to be my age, which is not, I'd have to watch the Golden Girls again if I could tell you to tell you whether I look better than Betty White did during the Golden Girls.
Oh yeah, no,
But they
because
were meant to be grandmothers, right? That is the
yes,
point.
that
They're
was the thing.
retired grandmothers in
They
their early
all
50s, and I guess
looked.
yeah, grandparents were in their early 50s.
They,
You know, at
I
the
mean,
beginning of the 80s.
I will say, like, when you watch those old films, like I say old films, I mean films from the 80s, people definitely look different,
Yeah.
right? You definitely looked like people looked older,
Yes.
who
And those
weren't
people were
necessarily
meant to
old.
be older. I mean,
Yeah,
Gene Hackman, RIP, he is the best example of that. Like that guy never looked young, really.
no.
And that was he was a man.
Mm.
Whereas now, okay, Paul Atreides is meant to be,
Chalamet.
yeah, but Chalamet's meant to be a boy in both of those films, in both of the nominated films. He is meant to be a boy, but in most cases, he's played, that's what an adult is meant to look like.
Yeah.
And I think, that again is a very cultural thing. I think we all feel that that is what we all look like in our adulthood. But I certainly don't.
Yeah, that is very true. Very true. But it says, yes, I think it says a lot for what, you know, I think the image Hollywood throws out there, which
Yeah.
is why the substance doesn't work in what it's supposedly trying to say, how age is this thing and blah, blah, blah. But I'm just like, yeah, but you've muddied the water with your message.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, yes, for me, it runs a bit deeper than that. I just think it was a bad film at the end.
Mm,
And by its conclusion, it was a bad film. There was a lot of promise, and they ruined it. They fucked it up. And
yeah.
I kind of feel that way about most of the films. Like I said, like I feel that way. I'm just looking at the list. Everything that was okay. This is really cheap shot. This is a very cheap shot, but
Okay.
this is what I thought was wrong with one of the films. This is my potted, totally cynical, I'm not even going to. Yes, I'm not even going to explain my views on this, but just to go, because we haven't got all day. But The Brutalist, I'm like, where did that rape scene come from? It just came out of nowhere, and I really thought that that was going to be a film about architecture. It kind of felt like a remake of The Fountainhead to me, and I was looking forward
Mm-mm.
to it, seeing this guy's career, but then it turned into this sexual thing. A complete unknown. We've talked about this, but as a Bob Dylan nerd, I just found it annoying how inaccurate it was, and I just don't know why in biopics about musicians they wouldn't use when the in certain cases, be it Aretha Franklin or Bob Dylan, where the voice is so integral to why that person is who they are, use their fucking voice, please stop it.
Mm.
Conclave, I liked Conclave a lot. I think it's almost faultless. Again, they felt the need to throw in this sexuality thing at the end, where I was like, okay, yeah, I guess, like gender identity is really hot right now, but like, does this film need to go there? No, I
Yeah.
don't think it did.
I
Dune Part
haven't read
2,
the book, so I don't know if that was in the book.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
Dune Part 2, as I said, I have no faults with that. Emilia Perez, weirdly, I was excited. I mean, I was excited. I'm excited when any Jacques Audiard film came out, but everybody hated that movie. Like, I really liked that movie, weirdly, but I think I benefited from the fact that everyone who saw it told me it was a piece of shit. And I had to see it because I love Jacques Audiard, and weirdly, it got me. I liked it, and I don't think, it's not a best Oscar movie. It's not, it's not Parasite, but I really liked it. But it shouldn't have. I don't even know if it should have been on this list. I'm Still Here. I watched that last night. It's okay.
Okay.
There's nothing fundamentally wrong with that film other than it's not that good.
Right. I haven't
Um,
seen that one.
Nickel Boys is long, man. What do you think about Nickel Boys? I quite enjoyed it.
I thought it was because it was the dude's directorial debut. So as a
Mm.
first film, it's good. It's decent.
Yeah, it's
I
decent.
but
I
I
was
was
expecting to
surprised
not
to
like it,
see it
frankly.
on the list.
Huh?
I was surprised to see it on the
No,
list.
totally.
I didn't think it's a best
No.
film. Like,
No.
it
I mean, I
was a
think this goes back
solid
to them trying
debut.
to be inclusive and all of that, but, like, again, like, we have to go back to, like, what is the rationale for this thing, for the existence of this thing at all? And if it's about showing that other things exist, then fine, yeah, okay, it's okay. But, like, then you're judging the films within this list on a different basis. You're not
Mm.
judging against Dune 2, because Dune 2, whilst, it's not speaking. Yeah, I mean, I could argue that it is speaking to inclusivity and to a lot of the issues that we're talking about today, but it's a sci-fi movie, so
Yeah.
it should just be fucking happy to be on the list, apparently. Substance, a piece of shit, and Wicked, great. Like, if that's your thing, it's great. But again, that one particularly, no fault. But in most of those films, there's just something fundamentally just sullies it and lessens it, I think, and it just shouldn't have been on that list. But
Mm.
I think it's been quite a shit year, man.
It's been a weird one, right? Now, what you said about The Brutalist, I thought the same, right? Because I'm watching this film and it's a long film. Like, it didn't need to be that long, right? But you've got throughout the film, you have this guy who's just like, you can't tell me what to do. I'm gonna blah blah blah, right? So you you got raped. It's not like you can wake up and go, oh, why's my bum hurt? You know what I mean? Like, you know what must have happened. Like, it's not like, oh, maybe I fell over. You know what I mean? It's just like, all right. So, with the way we've seen, Lazarus Toth act throughout the film, he's not a person that's going to let that go,
No.
but he let it go. So it was baffling. It went
It was
against
baffling.
who
It
that
was baffling
character
that they
was.
put it in at all, and it was
Yeah.
baffling the way it was dealt with,
Mm.
and it wasn't really dealt with. I
No,
mean, like,
because
it
we
happened.
jump forward in time,
Yeah,
so
and
they
then it
didn't really
becomes
deal
like
with
a
it.
rape victim film, but it
Yeah.
was about, immigrants and architects. I didn't realize this was a rape victim film, like, just, choose a lane.
Mm.
And, it's terrible that people get raped, sure, but, like, this film was meant up until this moment, 3/4 of the way into a very, very long film, um, you've just totally switched up on me, not in a good way, because I was really enjoying where we were, and now we've turned into this other thing.
Yeah.
And like, if I wanna watch that, there's plenty of things on Netflix for me to see that. You don't have to do that, and it's also like, I don't know. I thought that had the potential to really be a great American movie. I
Mm.
really did, and I was into it. And then it
Yeah.
did that. I was like, and then you're going to end on that note.
I mean, you had that instance, right? You had the bit when the wife of his cousin is like, dance with me. And then he's like, oh, he tried to sleep with me. And
Yeah,
he doesn't say anything. And you're just like, how is he not saying it? Like, it got really weird because he sacks his friend at the end. So suddenly he's acting all bizarre. Then we just jump forward in time.
yes,
And
and
then,
missed the whole interesting bit.
yeah.
The
And then they're
interesting bit
talking
where he
about
actually becomes like, have you read The Fountainhead
no.
or seen the movie of The Fountainhead with
Yeah.
Barry
Yeah. Saw the
Cooper?
movie, but I hadn't read the book.
Yeah. So, and I've read that this was to some extent based on that, but that is it's not, it's a book about an architect, and like on a deeper thematic level, it's about plowing your own path and, having that Ayn Rand approach to life.
Mm.
And yeah, it started the argument without completing.
Yeah.
It just it started off with this. Um, yes, what's the word? Um, oh, I can't remember the word. When a treatise on this thing, and then it got quite far into it, and then it just forgot to actually
Mm.
conclude as to what it was trying to say, and then it was, and yes, like a man, a 20th century man, and what it means to be a human being, and then the point being that it's really bad to get raped.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, a disappointment again.
Yeah. And I think it was another one of those films that ended with a load of text on the screen. And I was
Yeah.
just like, okay. I hate it when they end with a whole heap of text on the screen. I'm like, if you're gonna do that, have a character from the film read what it is, or at least put it on the website. So if you can't see the text on the screen,
Mm.
you can go, oh, that's what it said.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But it's just like a load of text on the screen. Like, awesome. Thanks, guys.
Well, we're back to an accessibility issue, isn't it? That, like, you'd think
Yeah.
the cinemas would be up to date on that shit.
Oh, it's very frustrating. I mean,
Yeah.
well, that was a big thing. When Anora, I'd say over half of that film is subtitled. I would say over half of that film is subtitled. But when you go to the Wikipedia page, doesn't say it's in other languages.
Oh,
Right?
really?
On the Odeon website, doesn't list it's subtitled. So because it showed during the London Film Festival, and I didn't see it because I feel they said it was subtitled. Or I spoke to someone and they were like, oh yeah, Nora's sub. I'm like, oh fuck, because they'd already seen it at another festival. So I'm like, all right,
Right.
I'm not gonna see that. But then when I saw it here, I'm thinking, maybe I'm thinking of a different film. Maybe I was wrong. So I was like, all right, let me go and see it because it's up for best Oscar. And then it was so much subtitled. I was just like, fuck.
Mm.
There's the same thing happened during fucking Nosferatu. and like
Of
didn't
course,
know
yeah.
didn't know it was subtitled, and then half
Ah,
the film is fucking subtitled. It was so but I feel I still got more out of Nosferatu
of course,
as
because
a
it's
film.
like that is high quality. I really like Nosferatu. Again, I was not expecting to, but it just as a reminder, like the original Nosferatu was silent.
Yes.
And a lot of it, the storytelling, I'm not going to say it's at the same level, but it's certainly vying to be at that level. So
Mm,
Nosferatu should kind of work even with no sound.
yes.
So, and it kind of does. I mean, I'm not, I don't have the seeing impediments that you have, but I can imagine that it would stand up better than
Yeah.
Anora from a filmmaking storytelling point of view. I can imagine watching that with the sound off and the subtitles off and still kind of getting quite a lot from it. I mean, it's a beautiful movie.
Oh man, the way that was the thing was looking at it, the way it was shot, the use of color, the
Yeah,
camera
it's
work,
cool.
it was for the soundtrack, it was and the use of sound, it was phenomenal. So I was just like, even without being able to understand a lot of what was maybe happening, I feel I still got what
Yeah,
was
and you know what?
happening.
I think in that film, it's okay. Like, I think that film could have possibly worked even without the subtitles, because, like, when he's talking that really ancient Hungarian dialect, no one understands what he's saying. Like,
Mm,
when the Nicholas Hoult character turns up in Transylvania, like, they're talking to him in this dialect, but he doesn't understand it. So, like, in a way, it would have worked from the POV of that character for you not to understand what they were saying.
mm, that's true. That's
So,
very
in that way, that's kind of cool. And, when what's his name, Skarsgård is doing that amazing voice, I
yeah.
fucking love. I just spent the next 2 days talking like Nosferatu, and my daughters found it very upsetting.
Oh
It's
man.
such fun, man. Like that, yeah. So I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, I'm looking
But
forward to seeing it at home when it
hmm,
hits whatever platform it's coming on, and to just see if when once I can, pause it and see what's being said, if that adds anything extra to it. Because I enjoyed it, without knowing. So I'm gonna be I'm
yeah,
gonna be
that'd be
curious to
interesting.
see how much it brings to it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, like I say, like, it's got a lot of it subtitled, but sometimes it's cool to see films where the people talking in foreign languages you don't understand because the characters don't understand. As
Mm.
a choice. There was quite a lot of, I mean, because she talks to him in his language, doesn't she? So, and there's some nice dialogue in it, but I think it's done in such a way, like, really sensitive to really traditional ways of telling stories that, as I say, I think I can see it working even with no sound, that film. And then the sound design is so beautiful. And
Oh,
like I said, the voice and
yeah.
everything. Did you see that? You saw it at the cinema.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
kinda wish I hadn't seen it. I wish I'd seen it at the cinema. I wish I hadn't waited. I'd waited,
Mm.
but I
Yeah,
didn't.
the
I've got
sound
2 little kids, so I hardly get to go to the cinema. Luckily, we got
yeah.
the BAFTA membership. Yeah.
But I think that is the whole thing about day and date release, which I think I don't have an issue with, because there's a load of people that can't get to the cinema.
Yeah, it's
So
true.
I'm just like, it gives them the opportunity to watch a film. And I think there's something about seeing certain like, I mean, I watched yeah, I watched June 2 at home, but I watched June 1 in the cinema. And oh my days, like the experience, the sound, everything is phenomenal. So it's just the only like it was just a finance thing, and it was a scheduling thing why I couldn't get to see June 2 in the cinema.
Yeah.
but I would have seen it in a cinema. And I think there's certain films that you're just like that. You get so much from watching that
Yeah,
in
man.
the cinema.
Yeah.
So I feel that, cinema's never gonna die. The problem with cinema at the moment is, firstly, cinema used to be the cheap date, right? I remember as a kid, could go to the local Odeon with £5 in the pocket, right? And so that £5 covered travel there and back. It got a Panda Pop and some sweets in the newsagents opposite the cinema. Got the cinema ticket. I can't remember if it got a Happy Meal in McDonald's as well, but you could get so much for five. Now you're spending what, £40
Yeah.
to go to the cinema for two people. It's not the cheap date anymore.
No, not at all.
And that's,
And if you're
and
traveling
then,
there and if you wanna eat, then
yeah,
forget it. Like, there's not much you can do in the world at the moment for less than £100. It's stupid.
that's the thing. And the other problem, like, there's so much antisocial behavior in cinemas.
Yeah.
So much. Now, I used to work at a cinema, right? I used to manage the cinema, and firstly, I'd tell all my staff, I'd be like, look, you check the screen like every 15 minutes. Every 15 minutes, go check the screen and walk in there so you're standing at the side so people can see you've come into
Yeah.
the screen. So if there's an issue and you haven't heard it, seen it, someone knows you're there and they can come and be like, yo, this went down, do something. You know what I mean? But also, because when I started, they're like, oh, it's a free strike rule. I was just like, no, it's not. Not on my shift. If you do something, you're out,
Yeah.
right? Because we all know how you're meant to be acting in certain, these spaces. So if you make a noise, you're out. And it went from handing out like over 100 comps in a week to handing out no comps, because people understood if you make a noise, you're out, right? And I used to have hardly any staff every shift. I'd have no staff, but I ran it like that. I
Yeah.
go to cinemas now, and there's so many staff, they're not checking films. They're letting all this nonsense go on, so it just ruins the experience. And people are thinking, I've spent over £40 to come here with
Mm.
my partner. Why am I spending all of this money when I could stay at home, rent it? So I'm paying a lot less and I can control the environment. So there's not going to be all of this noise.
Yeah.
That's the problem with cinema. You need to sort the prices out and sort the experience out so people can actually enjoy it without all the nonsense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yes, it's a lot of money to be spent to have it ruined by someone. If that happened in a restaurant, they wouldn't put up with it.
No. So yeah, that's the thing, because feel like people want that experience.
Oh
You know?
yeah. I mean, there aren't many films that something isn't added by seeing it in a big screen. Like
Mm,
certainly films are kind of built that way that they need to be. But yeah, I mean, I love going to the cinema. But
yeah.
but like you say, it's really expensive. I'm at a point in life where it's just not as possible as it used to be. And so yeah, day and date release, it's great because you get to be part of the conversation in a way that you weren't before. You'd have to wait a
Mm,
year. But there was but that said, I used to go to the film cinema a lot more, and I think everybody did before the whole day and date thing. And
oh,
part
for
of the
sure.
reason why it's so expensive is because they don't have as many patrons. So they have to get the same amount of money off a smaller group of people.
Mm, yeah, it's they've got themselves in this vicious cycle, because when you, like, let's say a pack of M&Ms right? Let's just say in the supermarket it's 80p, in the cinema it's £3.80. Like the markup is insane.
Yeah.
When if so on an 80 packet of M&Ms, if you marked it up to £1, no one would really care. You know what I mean? You put a little bit extra on, no one would care. But when it's so much more, who's paying for that? You
We're
know,
paying for that, but you feel like you've been mugged.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's this stupid mentality thinking, well, because they don't make money on the film itself, right? Because after you've rented the film, you're not really making any money. You're paying all of that money on the rent. So they're making all the money from the concession. So they're like, oh, we have to make this concession so expensive to make any money. But if the concessions were cheaper, you're buying multiple things. So you will make a profit because you're going to be selling more.
Yeah, and you have happier customers. You feel a little less raped. I'm
Exactly.
just a brutalist.
Mm-hmm. You won't be toffed. You know what I mean?
You won't be soft.
That's the thing. So it's an odd one. But when you have, like because as we talked about, like when you look at a lot of these films, they're not these crazy experiences. You're not coming out of the screen being like, yo, oh my God, did you
Yeah.
see that? That was great. When that happened, oh man, I thought you're not doing that coming out of Wicked. You know
No.
what I mean? You're not doing that when you're coming
But
out
then
of
again, Kevin,
Wicked.
I do think we're not the. I think my 7-year-old daughter did feel that. I think it took her to that world, and it,
Yeah.
possibly did for her what
Mm.
Dune 2 maybe did for us. Like we're not the target audience for that.
No. But do you feel, right? Obviously, something like Wicked is made for that younger audience, and I think they're coming out going, the design, the set design, the costumes, the songs, they're the things, but they're not talking about the story. They're not talking about the story structure. You know what I mean? Where
Sure.
we might come out of a film and be like, yo, the way that they structured that was phenomenal. Right? The way that unfolded was so good. They're talking about the superficial elements of it. Now, when I say superficial, it's not saying they're throwaway, but it's not the heart and soul of it. It's
No,
not the
I agree.
story.
I agree. Although, frankly, like I don't have anything against. It wasn't particularly sophisticated, but I think that the story of Wicked was told perfectly well. I actually like that was the story was actually one of the things I liked the most about it, and because I didn't know the story before, I thought it was just quite a clever take on those characters and a way to make it kind of relevant to the world in which we live in now, in
Mm.
terms of identity, in terms of power, in terms of yeah. I'm not going to shit on it, Kevin. I'm not going to shit on it. Sorry, I liked it.
No, like as I said, the story's fine, right? Because I've seen the musical. I really enjoyed the musical.
Oh, okay. I've not seen the
Yeah,
music.
really enjoyed it. Yeah, oh, take the kids to that. They
Yeah, no,
will.
I won't.
You will be the best dad ever. You know what I mean? If they
Yeah,
like the film, they'll love the music. The musical was great. I really enjoyed that. I just thought the film was too long. Like
yeah,
the story's fine. The story
yeah, yeah.
is the same,
No,
but
I
it was
agree.
just
Look, I
long.
think it should have been 2 parts, but I think each part could have done with just being 90 minutes long. And
Yeah.
I don't think you needed to really. I don't think there would have been any massive bits to take out. I just think everything just should have been a bit snappier.
Mm.
and then it would have been quite exciting as well. Like Wizard of Oz is not 3 hours long.
New.
And that it stands up. Like I think the point being that I don't think my 7-year-old would have loved it any less had it been 20%, 30% shorter.
Yeah.
And I think you and I might have enjoyed it more.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I think about. That's exactly what I think about Wicked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to do a lot to it to have a greater appeal.
Yes, exactly. It could have been pretty much the same film. But what is the running time of Wicked?
Whew. I think it's like over 2.5, I believe.
So if anything, it's kind of a miracle that they made something where a 7-year-old wouldn't lose concentration for, where is it?
It's 160 minutes. So yeah, it's 2
It's
hours.
almost 3 hours. 180 minutes is 3 hours. So it's almost 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it really, like, both halves should have been that long. Like, they should have got through the entire story.
Yeah.
In that amount of time. And I don't really understand, other than from the kind of the streamer's perspective, where they just need eyeballs to stay on their platform for longer. Other than that, I don't really understand what this trend towards longer and longer filmmaking is. I just think it's unnecessary expenditure, unnecessary risk taken. Like, the longer the film, the more time you've got to fuck it up. So, a lot of these films that we're discussing, be they Wicked or The Brutalist or The Substance, could have been salvaged by just having a lot of it lopped away. And in the case of Wicked, it could have been lopped throughout and still kind of kept structurally similar. I think, in terms of The Substance, they just should have split it in half and released it at half the length, and it actually could have been kind of a great film.
Yeah, I think
Cronenbergian kind of,
make it a short.
Yeah, or even make it a short. But I actually think there could have been a feature in it, but I just don't think that feature should have been that long.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been an hour.
Could have been an hour. I mean, it could have been an hour 20, and then it would have been a feature film, and that, I think, would have been a good feature film. And I wouldn't have lopped too much off the beginning, because I think it started strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, it is a very odd one. It is a very odd one.
Yeah.
Did you
Sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, did you see Flow?
Yes. It was lovely.
Did
you see it?
No, I have not seen Flow.
It's nice. I mean, it's not amazing. None of it's really nice. It's really nice. Like, I didn't really like the animation, the style of it. It's quite computer gamey, but I think that's because it's actually quite. It looks a bit cheap because it was a kind of cheap film, especially when you compare it to the other films on that list. Well, I've not seen. I saw Inside Out 2, which is fine, but it's not an Oscar film. Memoir of a Snail, I've not seen. Wallace and Gromit, I have seen, and The Wild Robot, I have seen. You can tell I've got kids. Wild Robot is great. It weirdly suffers the same thing, but it's just like weirdly long for an animated film, and it doesn't need to be. And then the other films are just like high budget animation films. Like, there's nothing particularly special about them. I don't really know why they're there. But I guess because there was nothing else. And I think that's, in conclusion, that's the takeaway from this year's Oscars, is like, there's a lot of second-rate films in it, but what else would you have put in? Like, it's all kind of second-rate. They're there because there was nothing else to put in. The only place to go, I think, when you're looking at, if you actually want to see a list of good films, as I always say, they're still making good films, but none of them are in English. So if you go to the best foreign films, where is the best foreign film?
I'm still the best international. No, that's
Yeah,
not the
I'm still here. Emilia Perez, Flo, The Girl with the Needle, and The Seed of the Sacred Fig. I mean, immediately, they're all good. There isn't a duff one in that list.
okay.
Emilia Perez is arguable, but like for me, The Girl with the Needle is the best film of the year, and The Seed of the Sacred Fig is kind of amazing. Like it's an amazing movie, it's an amazing achievement, and it kind of that film is going to go down in history, if nothing else, for the way it was made. And then the Girl with the Needle, like, deserves to be, treasured for generations to come. It's just a marvelous film.
Oh, man.
And so those films there are, that bit of the list is always where you're going to find the best films, for the last couple of decades.
But it's so frustrating.
Yeah, for you, man, that sucks. But
It's so
I got to imagine that a lot of these films are coming out dubbed. They must do.
Well, you know what? The weird thing, because it was always this frustrating thing about watching films. And I remember Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, that they released when they released it on video, they released a dub version.
I remember that, yeah.
And the thing was, Warner Brothers said, if this is successful, we will do this all the time. And it was insanely successful. So cut to a few years later, House of the Flying Daggers, right? I'm in New York. I've befriended a manager at the local cinema. I think his parents were from England or something like that. And he's like, "Oh my God, you're from London?" I'm like, yes, I am. That's splendid. And so he's like, "Oh, you come watch films for free." I'm like, "Okay." So I saw House of Flying Daggers and I saw Spider-Man 2 again. But I went into House of Flying Daggers thinking off the back of Crouching Tiger. And then it's fucking subtitled. And I'm just like, well, this is bullshit, isn't it? And it was like, what? I didn't understand. But they didn't follow through on what they had said. And it's just, there's the occasional film that gets a dub, but it's not across the board. It is the one thing about AI that I'm actually looking forward to.
Right.
Because did you see there was a film called, oh gosh, I think it's called Fall. It was about the two girls that climbed the weird aerial
I
tower.
haven't seen it, but yes, I know the one you mean.
Yeah. So the company that made that bought this AI company, and they're like, yeah, we're going to use it to translate films. And I'm like, oh, that's incredible. That would be fantastic. Because they're like, there's all these foreign films that are so good. So we're thinking if we get if we pay for the distribution rights in the UK, and we can then put out a version that's dubbed using the AI. And I was like, oh, that would be so fucking great. But that's the big thing with AI, where I'm just like, yeah.
I mean, even if they haven't got the rights, for them to create a little box because it could translate it for you on the go. I mean, I imagine there'd be a bit of delay, but actually, if it scanned the whole film before you watched it, I'm pretty sure it could just do it in real time. And maybe that needs to be a product as opposed to a part of film distribution. But yeah, I can totally see that happening.
Because if there was an app, right, and say, because I do the Odeon Unlimited, because I'm just like, you get sent a lot of films, but for what at the moment, Disney ain't sending me to watch Captain America. What I mean? They're not letting me into everything. So there's certain films where I'm like, I have to go cinema for that. So I do the unlimited to let me go. So if there was something like that, maybe, and it's just like I'll pay that, I would pay it to get the dubbed access.
Yeah, I wonder if there's such a thing.
I've got no issue of hitting them up with a monthly stipend, and then I get the function on the app so I can just wear headphones, go to a foreign film, and it's all dubbed. That I would pay for that.
That's a really good idea, man. I don't know. Do you know that doesn't exist?
As far as I know, it does not exist. Like there's
That's a
sometimes,
really good idea for an app.
yeah.
And it's
It's
not just
like
for
I
not
wish I
just
could
people
do
with
that.
sight issues, but it's just for people who don't like reading subtitles, and there's loads of them.
Oh, there's that.
I
But
imagine it would actually be fucking easy. The
well,
tech is quite easy. It's just like some combination of it hearing what's on the screen and you having fed it the film in the past. So it's not
yeah.
having to translate it on the go, but it can tell where it is in the film by listening to. We're giving away our idea, aren't we?
Well, I mean,
We shouldn't do this
the
as
problem
part of
is,
the podcast.
yeah, I don't know
It's
anyone
a good
who's
idea.
good on tech that could actually, like, if I had money and I knew someone that was good at tech, I would just go and get it built, you know what I mean? And then shop it around. Like, my other idea for cinemas is to have a box. Because like you watch those films, right? And they're like, Tupaq, call for help. And you're like, phones not, they've got a blocker. They've got a blocker. Phones don't work. Fuck. We're in trouble. We're on our own. Right. So if in every screen there was a box and it meant no phone calls,
Yeah.
right? It meant you couldn't, and like the only phone call that could come through was like, an emergency kind of thing. But otherwise, phone calls won't, it blocks all phone. Then you wouldn't get a lot of that other bullshit in the cinema. That's my other idea. But yeah, because if you ran a film, as you said, you on the app, every studio would run, give them access to the films. Like they just run the sound, the track, audio track through it. So then you just go in there and you hold it up and it syncs up to what's on
The
screen.
sound. Yeah.
Because it's just like when I worked in the cinema, right? You'd put markers on the ads, the trailers, and the film. So that would then let the the function in the screen know to turn the lights off, to open the curtain, to do all of these things. So there's things that you do to help the automation. So there's probably something that you would have at the beginning of the film, like these inaudible beeps or something that would then sync up with this kind of app. And then you'd have everything on.
Yeah.
And just, yeah, I just don't understand how it's not a thing.
I think it will be a thing, man. I hope you get to do it.
Yeah, that would be good.
Someone's going to call you when you publish this podcast and say, "Will you come and lead the team?"
Oh man, if people had the foresight, I'd be working at the BFI sorting out
There you
all their
go.
bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, you could be fucking developing this app for the BFI. That'd be a fucking money spin for them as well.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But
The BFI now develop this app, you can sue them.
yeah. Yeah, that would be, yeah, because there's so many great foreign films,
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. That's a really good idea. That's a really good idea. I mean, there's already translation apps, isn't there?
Yeah. I'm hearing, I
I've not
believe that
used them.
the Google one does translate on the go in
Yeah,
real
audio.
time.
It does, yeah.
And it's meant to be pretty good. I've not
Yeah, it's only
used
getting
it,
better.
but I hear it's definitely a lot better than it was when it first started.
Yeah,
So
dude. Fucking the exponential improvement of these things is scary. It really is. I think that's a conversation for another day.
yes, definitely. Oh man, but yeah, those were the Oscars. I mean,
The Oscars. Oh my God, we've been talking for an hour and a half, man. That's crazy. My wife's not going to get to watch tonight unless she's watched it
oh,
without.
oh, shame. Yes, you definitely. Oh, I'm just looking Nosferatu. What? Because I'm thinking. Actually, I don't think Nosferatu was up there, but it was for cinematography and production design. Didn't
Okay.
win either, but it was. Oh, and makeup.
Well, all of those things were great, aren't they?
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
So good. Oh, costume design as well. I mean, I can understand Wicked winning costume design
Yeah.
for sure. That makes
Yeah,
so
yeah,
much
yeah. That
sense.
was a massive job, right?
Mm,
And very well done. So yes,
yeah. I mean, those elements of Wicked were phenomenal. Like
yeah,
they created the world,
yeah,
you
totally.
know? And I think that's why I when I watched it and I was just a bit like and I reviewed it and I'm just like, look, I felt it was too long, blah, blah, blah. But you can see how it speaks to its audience.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because and I feel the fans of Wicked went into that like I went into Lord of the Rings.
Sure. Oh,
You know what I
totally,
mean?
totally. It was a phenomenal. It was a phenomenon, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really
So
was.
definitely that film warranted winning those
Yeah,
awards.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, the amount of effort and thought that went into, they and all props to them for actually building the place and not doing it all with CGI. It was,
Mm,
despite the fact that somehow they decided to it kind of looks like a Marvel movie, even though it's actually, mostly shot on lots. But still, it does. The choice to spend the money to actually build those environments paid off, I think, for sure.
yeah, that was one of the odd things. There were a lot of it looked so good, but then some moments looked so jarringly green screen
Mm.
that it was just like, oh, this is weird. This is
Yeah, yeah.
weird.
I think that's what you get, no? If you build up the majority of your set and then you have to do some final reshoots with green screen because you haven't built those or whatever.
Mm, yeah. I was happy Doom did get best sound and best visual effects.
Yeah, man, that opening sequence with those guys
Oh,
anti-graving up those rocks is so cool.
oh my days. That was incredible. That was incredible.
Yeah.
Oh man. Is there anything that you are eagerly awaiting?
Mickey 17, which comes out this week.
Yes, I
Other
am.
than that, not really.
Mm,
I mean, I'm trying to think. You sent a list, didn't you? I mean, Mickey 17, I think I'm really excited about that. I mean, that it's potential. It has so much potential to be great. That movie. I
yeah,
love. I love Bong Joon-ho. I just so much of it.
mm,
I mean, it's almost too much. Do you know what I mean? It's almost too much.
yeah.
Like
I
my
kind of had
expectations of it are too high,
given,
maybe.
yeah, I'd kind of given up on Patterson, right? Because
Really?
I just was not a Twilight. And then I watched The King.
Cool. Yeah.
That was from what The King was like 4 years ago, or 4 or 5 years ago, I think. It was a Netflix film.
Yeah. No, I saw that. It's cool, that
And
film.
I thought he was fantastic as the French King. I
Yeah,
thought
he's
he was
hilarious.
so, and that completely changed my mind on Patterson.
I think
After
he's
that point,
so
I was
good. I
just
think
like,
Patterson can
"God,
do
that
no
guy."
wrong. Frankly, like I love him. I just think that he is, yeah, he's up there. I rate
Mm,
him higher than Chalamet. Like, have you seen The Rover?
no.
That's worth watching. It's got
Okay.
Guy Pearce in it as well, and that's like one of the first films he did after Twilight. And yeah, I mean, I have no interest whatsoever in Twilight, but like the films that he's done afterwards, and Good Time, the Safdie brothers one, was
Oh,
great.
yeah.
And I have an addiction to Tenet. Like, I don't know why I
Oh,
love that
Tenet
so
is
much,
so
but
good.
I love it, and he's
Oh,
so cool in that.
yeah. I went to the cinema twice for Tenet.
Yeah, me too.
I went because I just took. I mean, you need to watch Tenet. Let's go.
Yeah,
So fucking good. I
it's so
really
fucking
enjoyed that.
cool. Yeah, no, I think I've seen it certainly over 10 times, maybe 20 times at this point. And Robert Pattinson is one of the reasons. But like, Washington is so fucking cool in that film as well. Anyway,
Oh
yes.
god, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that family is ridiculous because I remember I'm watching The Piano because I think his daughter did his daughter direct The Piano?
No, his other
I don't
son
know. There
though.
was a good that's it, yes. But I think his daughter was in there was a good few Washington and I was
Yeah.
just like, it's unfair. This family has too much talent, man. But yeah, that was I thought The Piano was really good.
Yeah,
Like,
I like
I
the film.
kind of feel that was better than a lot of the films that are on these lists.
Yeah. It was certainly as good as, I mean, The Piano Lesson was as good as Nickel Boys, I thought.
I think it was probably I think I rated The Piano Lesson,
Yeah.
better than Nickel Boy.
Yeah. No, there was something very sweet about Nickel Boys. I kind of like the POV thing annoyed me a little bit. I thought that, as just as a technique of doing an entire film from someone's perspective, just a little bit literal. But and it didn't really kind of explain to me why it needed to be that way. And sometimes you don't need explanation, it just
Yeah.
works. Like, did you see the Pharrell movie, the Lego one?
No, I was going to see it because it was playing during the London Film Festival, but I just woke up that morning feeling so ill. I was just like, yeah, I'm not seeing this.
It's fun, man. It's fun, and it keeps begging the question, like, why the fuck is it in Lego? Like it, but after a couple
Okay.
of minutes, you don't really care that it's in Lego. It's just quite fun that it being in Lego, and does kind of explain it, but that's not the point.
Hmm. Hmm. No, I thought Nickel Boys was a really good debut film.
Yeah, totally,
That was
totally.
a
No,
really like
impressive.
I did think because I think you weren't meant to guess that the other boy was dead, but I thought it's pretty clear from the
Yeah,
way it was that this isn't that guy's story. This is the other one telling the
yeah,
story.
yeah, yeah, totally. No, it was great, and I
Mm,
mean, it's from both Nickel Boys and The Piano Lesson are both from big American authors. I think Nickel Boys is a book and Piano Lesson is a play, but by people,
yes.
don't ask me the names, but like kind of giants in their fields. So yeah, there's a lot of connective tissue between those two films.
Mm,
And
yeah,
I like them both. I like them both. But
mm,
like you say, like, I'm not sure that one of them either of them deserves to be on this list, and certainly not that Nickel Boys deserves to be on there any more than the Piano Lesson did.
mm, yeah. I'm looking forward to Sinners.
Oh,
I'm
that looks cool.
intrigued
Yeah.
because Cougar is a great director, so I'm looking forward to seeing what that is.
Yeah, that looks like a lot of fun. That does look like a lot of fun.
Mm, yeah, yeah. I'm not quite like I'm. Oh, well, Ballerina. I'm looking forward to Ballerina because I've very much enjoyed the John Wick films. They're, you know, they don't necessarily make sense, right? Sometime. Like, because in the last one, when oh my god, I can't remember the doom. The black dude with the dog.
Lawrence Fishburne.
No. You know, the assassin with the dog in the last one.
I'm not
Like,
even
he's a
sure.
sniper.
I haven't seen them
He's
all. I couldn't tell you which one I've seen.
okay. Well, there's a bit where a guy puts a knife through his hand. One of the top table put a knife through his hand, and they're like, you can't take the knife out. So he had to like pull his hand through the knife. But then
No.
he's using the hand later on. And I'm like, if you pulled your hand through the knife, you've fucked all the tendons. You're not using that hand. Like, there's things where you have to just go, okay. You know what I mean? You can't be like, that's not realistic. You just have to be like, okay.
Well, dude,
But
it's John
is it
Wick. Come
it's
on.
enjoyable, you know?
Yeah.
Because I've fallen downstairs before. I wasn't getting up having a fight afterwards.
Because you're
I
not
was
John
like,
Wick, my friend.
uh, so yeah, yeah, but Ballerina, I'm looking forward to Ballerina to see how that is, and especially because Chad and the I forget the other guy, they're actually working on it, unlike
Okay.
that horrible series that went on Amazon, because none of them actually worked on it, and
Oh,
it
really?
showed. Oh,
Right.
that was horrible. That was so horrible. 20
I
years
thought the
later.
trailer for Magazine Dreams looks pretty interesting, although that's quite an old film, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it got shelved because of
Yeah.
all the controversy. But
Yeah.
before that, they were talking about it like it's an Oscar nominee,
Yeah, totally.
contender.
No, whatever that guy did, like, and again, another conversation. Like, should we judge people's artistic ability and their personal lives in the same sentence? But he's really good.
Oh,
That
for
Mike.
sure.
Yeah.
But well, the thing being, right? If you were gonna do that, right? When they cancel people because they're like, I didn't like what they said on Twitter, and I didn't like this, and blah 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 blah. It's just like you're only okay with these other people because you don't know what they said.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Because if you knew what they were thinking, you might not like them either.
Yeah.
So it
A lot
is a
of
bit,
people.
yeah.
I know, but it's part of the fucking game, and the whole Carla Maria Gascon or whatever her name is, like the fact that those things were out there and her publicist didn't take them down.
Oh,
It's just
that was
what?
insanity.
Just like you fucked it, and everyone's
Yeah,
looking at her as saying how much she fucked it, but actually it wasn't her. It was somebody else's job to make sure that shit was checked out and not available to the public, and they didn't do that. Somebody
yeah.
just dropped the fucking ball on that one hard.
Oh, true. But then I would also say, at this point, everyone knows what the game is.
Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
like if you get a big gig with certain companies, you have to be very careful of what you say. Like, I probably couldn't
No, but
do
this
this
was shit that
podcast
she said
the
years
way.
ago.
Yeah, but it's like I probably couldn't do this podcast, right, the way I do it if I got a big gig with, like, Netflix.
No.
Because I've been mad critical on a lot of their films. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I've said some shit, right? I stand by everything I say,
I
but
just think, yeah, totally.
but
But
I
you're
know
not,
in that
you're not,
environment, they
no,
wouldn't
you're
be
not
happy,
getting
so
paid
I
that
couldn't
money. But
say
if Netflix offered you a job and the pay was right, and they said, yeah, but you've got to shut down all your platforms, you've got to delete all your YouTube, all your Instagram, all your Twitter. I think that was kind of like, I can't believe they don't do that. I can't
that.
believe they hire these actors without making absolutely sure that there's nothing that the press can dig up on them. And
Yeah.
you think that the first thing they would do is like, I'm gonna read your tweet. Not even tell them to shut it down. Just like, I'm gonna read it. It's out
Yes.
there, so I'm gonna read it.
Yeah.
You don't need a private investigator to do that. Ask your
No.
cousin, ask your nephew to do it.
Well, at this point, you know what it is, right? So you know someone's gonna try and find shit.
Of course they are.
So I'm going to check everything,
Yeah.
you know,
And
or
if
at
there's any
least have
doubt,
a
I'm gonna ask them
statement.
to delete all of it. If
Yeah.
there's any doubt at all, I'm not going to risk my 18 Oscar nominations just because I can't be asked to check or
Yeah.
whatever, however many nominations they have.
Mm. But then also I would have statements ready because that's in what I do, that's what I do, right? You always have to, look at the threats. And so you have statements written. You have press releases written in case this happens, in case that happens. Even when like I worked at a company, a health company, and it came out that Mars had been paying a load of, scientists and researchers to like fudge information. And we hadn't taken any money, any sponsorship at all from them, but I still had to put out a statement on the situation.
Yeah.
Right. So you know what it is. So it's just like I'd have all of these things ready. You know what I mean? So it's baffling that
Fascinating.
nothing's ready. Nothing's
They
ready.
haven't
No
even
thought
checked.
went into anything.
They obviously didn't know that this person had said something pro Hitler however
Yeah.
many years ago, because had they known, they would have made sure that that statement no longer
Mm,
existed, but it was there for anyone to find.
yeah,
It's just a shock it took them, however many days it took them to get it out there.
I know.
Because me, if I'm trying to win, and they have entire teams now dedicated to winning these awards.
Oh,
If
yeah.
I'm on the non-Netflix team, that's the first fucking thing I'm doing.
Mhm.
Go to every main actor's Twitter account and find me some dirt, because then we can knock that film out of the running. Of course, I'm going to do that.
Oh, yeah. And it's not foreign to these people because even in a normal court case, right, they hire people to go through social media now to find photos, statements, likes of other weird things
Yeah,
to
totally.
go, you can't believe that person, they're a piece of shit, they did this. So
Yeah,
everyone knows. So it's
that's
so
the thing.
insane that they did nothing. But I think there was controversy on everything, there's controversy on Anora that they didn't use intimacy coaches
Oh, really?
with the sex scenes. I thought I'd heard that, but maybe it was a different film. But I think there was so much stuff around, a lot of the films. In the Brutalist, they use AI to sort out the accents. So there was something on all of most of the films, a controversy, which people are thinking, well, that's out of the contention now. That's not going to win anything because of that and that
Yeah,
and that and
yeah.
that.
Well, at that point, they're all just slinging shit, aren't they? And once again, we're not really talking about the quality of the film or the excellence of the
No,
craft of anyone. We're talking about, who's cleaner than clean, whiter than white,
yeah,
and we'll give them the prize.
yeah. Which
Because
is the
I imagine
state
the Academy were dying to give the prize to the first trans person in the.
of course.
Well, that's why she was there. That's
Yeah,
arguably why Amelia Perez did so well, is so they could give it to a trans person, and then she
yeah,
fucked it.
yeah. That it was basically a shoe in. It was.
Yeah.
Did you?
Oh, your sound's cutting, man.
Oh, did you watch Extras, that Ricky Gervais series from a few years back?
Some of them, yeah.
There was one with, I think it was um not Gwyneth Paltrow, the the other one? God. Oh, I can't fit the British one. She's in Lord of the Rings. Oh, I can't think of her name. But anyway, she was in Sliding Doors, a Sliding Doors one, right? She was in an episode and she's a nun. And
That's
they're making.
Paltrow.
Was that Gwyneth Paltrow?
Yeah.
Was it?
Inside
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. It was Gwyneth Paltrow. Okay. And yeah, she's a nun. And they're like, what? Why are you making this film? And she's just like, I mean, don't you know anything? If you want to win an Oscar, you make a film about a disabled person or the war. And it's just like, you know what I mean? It's so true.
Yeah.
So Amelia Perez had Oscar all over it. When they were even financing that film, they're like, we are going to clean up. And then they dropped the ball.
Yeah, they really did. Yeah. You know, I mean, despite all of that, not despite it, but like, even though I think it was like the Academy took it on quite cynically, because I don't, you know, that film is really not an Oscar contender. It's a weird little film that was made in COVID, and it's kind of an opera, and it's really not populist entertainment. And yet, you know, this is coming from someone who liked it a lot. It would have been kind of interesting had it cleaned up, because it's a quality piece of work, whether you like it, you know, whilst it's not for everyone. So I think that actually, even though it got in through the cynical door, I think it would have been good for that to win loads. And good for more people to see it, because, you know, this is a cool film. Like, you know, like, whatever you have to say about the musical bits of it, like the gangster shit is cool.
Okay.
And yeah, but yes, it was not to be. It was not to be. Anyway, man, it's getting a bit late for me over here.
I'm gonna let you go and do the White Lotus and all of that jazz.
Yeah, dude.
Just be the family man that you are.
I'm just even gonna go to bed now, I think, actually. But it's been so good to chat to you, dude.
Oh yeah, man. This has been a lot of fun. This has been a lot of fun. So thank you so much for your time, man. Really appreciate that.
Always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure.
And hopefully we can get financing sorted out and we can get a new feature. So let everyone know how they can keep track of the great Tupaq Felber.
I mean, I don't know, like on my Instagram, I guess. Tupaq F@ on my Twitter, although I hardly use those things. My Instagram at the moment is just mostly pictures of my kids. But yeah, I've just been selected for a BIFA mentoring scheme called BIFA Springboard for second-time filmmakers. So, you know, who knows? That might actually prove effective. I try not to put, you know, I'm trying not to get too excited, because I've just been through so many hoops on trying to get a second film made. But who knows? Like, it's something I won't have tried yet. And BIFA seem to be quite a legit organization, so we'll see.
Yeah. Well, people, go watch Tides. You're going to enjoy the fuck out of it, and then go throw some money at my boy. So go do that. Yeah, man, we definitely have to do this again sometime soon.
We will, man. We will, man. We've covered a lot, and you know, there's always more to cover.
Oh, always.
Take it easy, brother.
All right, you too, man.
Wu-Tang.